Good morning, everyone. Welcome back into the show. We're so happy you stuck with us, and you guys are going to be excited that you did, because if you've ever needed a little harmony in your life, literally and figuratively, well, today's guest knows exactly how to deliver it. He's performed with some of the biggest legends in music, from Earth, Wind & Fire to Madonna to Santana. I mean, the list goes on and on. But Freddie Ravel isn't just a Grammy-nominated pianist. He's what they call the keynote maestro, a master at blending music with leadership, communication, and purpose. And through his system, Life in Tune, Freddie helps top companies like NASA, Apple, and Toyota strike the right chord in a fast-changing world. His message? That music isn't just entertainment, it's a blueprint for success, empathy, and connection. So, everyone, please welcome to the show, Freddie Ravel. Welcome, welcome.
Freddie.
Greetings, greetings. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're so happy to have you here. How you doing this morning?
Wonderful. Great to be with you both.
Yeah, well, we just are so excited to chat with you and discuss everything that you have been doing. So there's so much that I want to cover today, and I first want to begin by chatting about your talent and your passion for music. So please, if you don't mind, just take us back for a moment so we can chat about your first introduction into music. What was the first instrument you started on, and how did that journey lead you to eventually playing the keys?
Thank you, Nadine. The first instrument that I got started on, believe it or not, was a hi-hat, because I was jamming to records on a hi-hat. And that was the first thing I started playing, was banging on a hi-hat from the drum set. From there, I went to the accordion. So accordion started at 7 years old, and then after that, I got into the piano about 3 or 4 years later after that.
And was it just like this instant connection that you have with the piano, or did you really have to work at your skill on it?
Well, I had to work on the left hand, because the accordion on the left hand is 120 buttons. A piano, of course, is 88 keys. So I had to get the left hand to catch up with the right hand. That was the first little struggle. But man, once I got into the piano, no looking back after that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know, normally I wouldn't. I think you're probably the first person that I've ever spoken to who has started at such a young age with the accordion. You know what I mean? The accordion, I'm thinking, this big, just very bulky instrument. So it's just wild that, you know, early stages of Freddie, you know, you were playing the accordion and then led to the piano.
It's an old world instrument, right? Yeah. I have my parents, my father's roots are Ukrainian, my mother's from Colombia, South America, and but Eastern Europe and of course Italy. The accordion is one of those instruments that's made its way around the world long before the piano was being played, you know?
Beautiful sound. It's great to get your start on there. Okay, so that's so fun. So you learned how the accordion, you learned the piano, and then you ended up going to school. You went actually to Cal State University, got a bachelor's degree in music there. What was the moment when you were like, hey, you know what? I think I can actually take this passion and something I'm good at and make a career out of it. When was that moment for you?
I've been just so focused on the power of music that I always believed that music could do much more than just be entertainment. And even back then, even when I was 18, 19 years old, I was playing, I already was in a band called the Jazz Cookbook. We were making albums. Back then we called them albums. And we managed to get it on the radio in Los Angeles on a station called Jazz FM. Yeah. And from there it went to the Wave a few years later. So we were very lucky to get on the radio, and that, you know, when you get on the radio at about the age of 19, 20, you get inspired. You realize, hey, I think there's hope. I think I might be able to make a living doing something that aligns with my passion.
That's amazing. Now, you mentioned jazz. What was it about jazz specifically? I mean, you know, with being just so well-versed in piano, what led you into jazz specifically, other than maybe like classical or another genre?
Yeah, thank you, Z. You know, I got to tell you, many people say that jazz is America's only actual true art form, because it could only happen in America, where we have all the people from all over the world come and create this blend of blues and gospel and improvisation and harmonies. And jazz, you know, grew out of that. So for me, jazz is the beautiful thing about jazz is that you improvise, that you come up with something spontaneous. And it's something that's about as American as it gets. So I love that jazz was the area that we landed in. And Cal State Northridge at the time had one of the best jazz programs going in the United States.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a timeless genre too. I mean, jazz is just, it can stand the test of time. I think it's such beautiful music there. And you talk about how, okay, you got in the radio, you knew this is what you want to do, you went and you got your degree, and then literally after you graduated, you started touring all across the world. Can you tell us about that?
The very big call that happened, I was 23 years old, and I got a call from Sergio Mendes. And for those of you who know, we lost Sergio less than a year ago. He passed away, but Sergio was the leading voice in Brazilian music, in bringing the sound of Brazil to the world. He's pretty much the man. Right after Antonio Carlos Jobim, the great composer who wrote The Girl from Ipanema. So Sergio brought me on the road and had me play all the keyboards behind him. He's a pianist. So my job was to play all the other parts, the strings, the flutes, the woodwinds, the organs, all the different instruments that would be under the piano. So I was like the orchestra for about 6 years with Sergio. And the very first gig we did, I'll never forget, was we played for the King of Thailand. So wow. Right out the gate, the first gig was outrageous. So that was my first thrust into global experience on the road.
Wow.
Yeah, just playing for kings and whatnot, just for royalty. How cool is that?
That's unbelievable.
Oh, no.
That's incredible. Incredible. So now you're traveling out of the country, and one of the things that you just touched upon is the fact that you are just well-versed. Sergio had you playing multiple instruments. It's reminded me of Prince. Prince played everything, and then now you are behind the scenes playing just about everything. How has that influenced your path and overall your music specifically?
I would say, I got to say, Z, that the thing that really, first of all, I view every day as such a privilege, and it's always been like that for me. So when I step into a band like a Sergio Mendes group, or when I ended up working with other artists, I felt so privileged. I felt like, I say that we're teachers sometimes, we're students all the time. And I've always been a student. So when I'm playing these bands, I would listen very carefully to, what is the guitar playing in a bossa nova? What is samba? And then later on, what is salsa? What is merengue? What is the proper way to use the clave? That's a whole other level of one of the DNAs of all Latin music, is a thing called the clave. Understanding that was something that I was always trying to learn when I was playing with either Sergio Mendes or Earth, Wind & Fire or Carlos Santana. I'm always looking to learn. And that's the short answer, Z.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and you just, rattled off a list, and I also did in the beginning. You've worked with legends.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking Madonna, we're talking about Carlos Santana, like you said, Gaga. I mean, what has that been like for you as a musician, but also maybe just as a fan of some of their bodies of work as well, stepping on stage with them?
It's a great privilege. And I kind of approach the whole thing with a sense of reverence, Holy cow, I have the chance to share the stage with a Carlos Santana and experience. He's like a lightning in a bottle kind of artist, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with all the other artists that I've had the great honor to play with. So for me, it's about how do I make them sound as good as they can. That's the other thing. Not just, I'm grateful, of course, but then the real job, when you're supporting a great artist, your job is to have their back and make them sound as awesome as they can. And that's a rhythmic contribution, a harmonic contribution, and that's the way you appear on stage, and that's how you appear if you're prepared. And you have to be super prepared. That's the other thing I learned from all of them. Prep, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? That famous question? Practice, 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 right? It's the same thing in the music world, which, by the way, I think is life in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to keep going at it. And I know we've been talking a lot about your talents, but now I want to show the audience just how talented you are. We actually have a clip of you performing live one of your hit songs, Sunny Side Up, on the piano. So let's show it, and then you can tell us about this performance.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, look at you go on those keys.
That's awesome.
So tell us about that performance.
So I'm switching cameras here. You got a keyboard up there, so I got to have the keyboards, to answer your question, right? There's many levels to talk about that, but to make it concise, first of all, the people. There's the great Verdine White of Earth, Wind, and Fire on that stage in that clip you just shared, laying down probably one of the greatest bass players of all time. Is Verdine White. Some of my regular members of my band, Michael O'Neill on guitar, Tiki Pasillas on drums. These guys are playing with me in a couple nights in Beverly Hills. I mean, they still play with me. They've been playing with me for over 25 years. So that's part of it, is having team members that have been part of you, Z was talking about the Knicks, right? I mean, you got to have a good team.
That's right.
And let's talk. You got to have a team, and you got to know that they know how to. You got your 3-pointers, and you got your people that are going up and down the court. You need the right people. So I have my ringers in my life. Got to have your ringers. So that's part of it. That was also shot at a beautiful venue called the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove, California, a few miles down the road from Disneyland in Anaheim. It's beautiful. The other thing, too, is that was Sunny Side Up. And I'm very grateful that album and that particular song went to #1 in the United States.
Yes.
And it's, thank you, God, by the way. I'm always grateful, to even be able to say that. And I think the other thing, too, is Sunny Side Up has these 3 notes, which I don't know if you can hear this. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh yeah.
Right? Okay. So those 3 notes, 1, 2, 3. One of the things in music that is handy to know is if you can have we call that a motif, right? It's a theme, a little theme. Other people might refer to it as ear candy, right? But if you can give people this. That kind of sound, right?
Oh yeah.
Once you get that going, and you get the mind hooking onto that. That's how we call it the hook, everybody. That's another thing we use in music. But when you can get people to connect, and you can, engage them, then you can tell them more information. But first you have to engage them. And a lot of that requires a good groove and a good rhythm. And of course, a good little motif.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a quick answer.
Well, it was wonderful. I'm so glad that you were able to do a show and tell and to show us exactly that. It brings me to what you're doing now, because I want to talk about how you're now using music in your keynote speeches. And from some of them that I've actually watched, you kind of break down the piano and going about the piano and how music is used and how you can tie that into communication and how humans talk with one another. So let's get into it. Let's actually talk about Life in Tune. There it is. Yes, your organization, you've spoken in front of thousands of people throughout the years. So tell us a little bit about that and why you decided to get into this type of speaking.
Quick answer. So during those years when I was working with Earth, Wind, and Fire, Santana, Madonna, during all that period, I was already doing things with Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra was someone I met back in 1992, 93, and I had been doing some events with him about the power of quieting the mind, the chatter that's in our brain, and the power of meditation. And one of the things that we talk about when we want to quiet the mind, the ego mind, is we talk about the space between one thought to the next. And if you can calm that down, you can have laser focus in life. But we have this thing called the monkey mind. It's always talking. It's always in the background chattering at us, right?
Yeah.
If you can tame that, you can have much more focus in your life. Now, this is no secret. This is why meditation and often yoga accompanies it, is a big part of our culture today. And it's over 5,000 years old, right? Going all the way back to Indian culture. I was thinking about, well, what about the space between the notes of music, right? That's an interesting thing because if you have space, you can execute things very nicely. Let's say if we took a song like "It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing." This is a classic song by Duke Ellington, right? Which goes. Right? If I played it with no rhythm and no sense of space, it might sound like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a basketball team not in sync.
Yeah.
It keeps coming back.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
if we got to get everyone on the court and get everyone moving to the basket so that we can execute our plan, right?
Yes.
Well, then it sounds different. It becomes this. Something like that, right?
Yeah, just something little like that.
Something like that. I mean, we're totally improvising right now, but it's that idea of, are we in sync or are we out of sync? And that led to one of the three foundations of music, and this is part of something we call the life in tune methodology, right? There are three parts to virtually all music: melody, harmony, and rhythm, right? And the melody is the part that you hear independently. That's the melody. The harmony is it's two or more notes. So I use harmony to talk about teams because you need at least two players, right?
Yeah.
To create harmony. You can't do harmony by yourself.
Yeah.
You could walk out on the court by yourself and start shooting baskets and you would be the melody. By the way, Z, I blame this basketball analogy on you.
No, we
You started off like that. I saw the blue sweater.
Yeah.
I mean, what am I going to do?
This is amazing. I love it.
What am I going to do?
I'm loving it.
Well, I think that just proves how you connect, though, with the people that you're speaking with. And this right here, you're showing that because you're making it so relatable to something that we were just talking about, basketball. So you're putting it in terms that we fully understand. So I think that's a testament to just your good work there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm by the way, I'm a crazy basketball fan. So I love basketball. I think it's the most amazing thing. But this is the thing: when you have solo leaders, you have melody, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot run a team just having the shooter. You need the harmony of the team with all their plays.
Yeah.
And the harmony is the way they work together, the way they listen to each other, the way they cue each other. But then you need rhythm. Are they moving down the court at a certain speed? How fast can they move the ball? How fast can they pass it? You know, all of that is part of the rhythm. So melody, harmony, and rhythm. Melody is the lead, harmony is collaboration, and rhythm is time management.
Ah, there you go.
And if you think of it in those terms, right, you can see how, companies, entrepreneurs, CEOs lead the team. They're the melody.
Wow.
They get up every morning and they talk about the hook of their products and their services. They are leading. The team it could be your managers and the workers that work all day to make the melody look good. That set up the CEO and the products and the services to reflect beauty and sound good. But without harmony, you don't have context. Harmony provides the background and the support. But here's the big one. You could have a great leader, melody. You could have a great team, harmony. But if your drummer doesn't show up to the gig, there's no rhythm. There has to be an agreement on time, right? We agreed that we were going to meet today. I agreed that I'd be here at soundcheck at 6:50 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's the drummer. That's the drummer. That agreement to meet people at a certain time and execute your melody and talk about harmony, that mark on the clock is where the drummer shows up. And some of us honor that and respect that, and there are many people who don't. And guess what? Those who don't, often their lives are out of sync.
Wow, what an analogy.
That's great.
That was huge. I just want to thank you, first of all, for getting up so early to be here with us. You were here on time at that 6:50 call, so we so appreciate it. And wow, I mean, I'm speechless. You're leaving me speechless with kind of that analogy and how that's all making sense. And I want to break it down more, hear more of who you've spoken with and kind of what their reaction is. But really quickly, please stay with us. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into all of that. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All
Thank
right.
you, Nadine.
We'll be right back with more of Mr. Freddie Ravel. Don't go anywhere.
All right, welcome back to the AM show. We are here with Freddie Ravel. He is incredible. I'm talking about public speaker, musician. He has traveled around the world. He has spoken to people around the world. He is a man of high impact. He is dropping gems upon gems and, honestly, keys upon keys.
Hey.
So welcome back to the show, Freddie. Thank you for sticking with us and for, honestly, just being who you are. We're just having such a great time chatting with you.
Thank you, Z. Thank you, Nadine. Honor to be with you all.
Of course. Freddie, where we last left off, we were talking about how you incorporate music into your public speaking. I think it's natural to understand why, of course, you started off with music and then led into public speaking. What was the point at which you realized that there was a solid connection that you can use to drive home in your speeches and how you connected music to how you connected with people? There's
a thing in music called the appoggiatura. The appoggiatura is, I know this sounds wild, but if I play a chord like this, when you play something dissonant like this, right, it's kind of a nasty sound, but if I go, in other words, I go from dissonance to harmony. Dissonance, harmony, right? We call that an appoggiatura because it happens on a strong downbeat. Well, I realize in life, human beings have moments where it sounds like this. And sometimes our attitude can get us from here to this. From this, and now you get. Once you start understanding that dissonance can be resolved in music, I started thinking about things, I know this is going to sound wild, conflict resolution. Why not? Why not? What would happen if I took my hand and I threw it into the keyboard like this? This kind of feels like what's going on in the world today. God, is AI threatening my future? Oh my God, is everything getting outsourced? Oh my God, what's going on with the news today? How can we feel such a high level of stress in this world, right? But if you look at this musically, and I go, what if I take away some of these notes? Let me take this guy out. Let me take this guy out. And let me be left with this. Right? What if I calm my mind down and take out the nasty notes, but don't throw everything out, because much of our life is beautiful. When we live in blessing, when we live in gratitude, we don't throw away that. We eliminate the nasty notes, but we keep the good ones. And all of a sudden, these three notes can become I'm just using the three notes.
I mean, that is so powerful and moving there. Like, I started to tear up a little bit about how beautiful life can be if, you take away some of those things that are bringing you down. It's such a beautiful way to lay that out. Wow. Wow. Yeah, you got to take a beat. I see now why you do what you do for a living, by the way. I am seeing it firsthand here. And
thank you.
Speaking of those kind of disruptions in life that you try to get people to kind of step away from, you actually have an entire keynote called Resolving Disruption. And I wanted to actually show a little clip of a part of your keynote where you talk about distractions with our phones, because you bring up a lot of statistics. And then let's dive into it a little bit more. But let's check out this clip first.
The smartphone has a tendency of hijacking our attention on such a level, it's an astonishing thing, you know. We also realized, right, Deloitte did an amazing study where they analyzed how much people check, at least in the United States, how much they check their phones. In the US, we're checking them about 48 to 50 times a day, just checking it, right? And then another company did an amazing research on it. They found out that we actually touch our phones, touch them, 2,600 times a day. See what I mean?
I mean, one, it's wild, and two, in that video, the fact that a phone went off right when you were talking about phones, I mean, absolutely incredible. But those statistics, those blew my mind. So how is it that you're able to, when you present this information, like what's the feedback that you get afterwards? People come up to you, what do they say to you?
I think a lot of people are in a state of like, wow, you're reminding us of what it is to be present. Because, you know, at the end of the day, my primary purpose of doing Life in Tune is to teach people how to be better listeners, respect each other, and honor each other. It turns out that if you want to be a good listener and you want to be present, you have to be empathetic, right? What is empathy? Empathy, for me, is the ability to walk in another person's shoes. So if someone's talking to you and they're saying something to you and you're going, God, I don't really get where they're coming from. In the moment they're speaking to you, do your best to kind of go, wait a second, let me put myself in their shoes, in their perspective for just a moment, and listen to them from the same vantage point. Take myself out of my world and be with them. That's empathy in action. One of the primary reasons I do this work is because I believe that if we teach people how to be available to each other and have a higher level of understanding, the world will be, you know, we'll be moving the world into a better place. And so empathy, another one would be compassion, and another thing would be mindfulness. But if I called my keynote presentation mindfulness, compassion, and empathy, no. But if we do it as resolving disruption, then people want to know how to do that. But it does come back to principles that are foundational, right? And we see those principles in the greatest atheists on the planet. We see that in people who are very good at diplomacy. And I believe if you want to advance in business, and if you want to advance professionally, and you want to advance personally, and you want to have a life that's, you know, in tune, you got to get in alignment. And alignment is understanding. And the more we understand each other, the better chance we're going to have for the human race to thrive. And that's ultimately what I think we're here to do is to co-elevate each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing, honestly. And you know, you speak on empathy, and I love your definition of empathy, really putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And, you know, I think as we spoke about before, you have this way of being able to really, even, you know, as we had the analogy when we were talking about basketball, and you know, you really put yourself in a position of even the shoes of basketball players and things like that. How do you, because you're speaking to so many different people, so many different subgroups and companies, how do you find a way to put yourself in their shoes so that your message relates to them?
It could be just my stubborn belief, but I do believe that everyone's got a melody. Z, you've got a melody every day that gets you out of bed, that makes you pursue the day with your passion. Nadine, you've got a melody. Mom's got a melody. Grandpa's got a melody. Every human being on planet Earth has a voice, right? What you can't even begin to, I'm putting this in quotes, you can't sing your melody unless you take a breath, unless you, right? You can't even sing a note until you take a breath. And what does every human being have in common? We all breathe in, we all inhale, we all exhale. You can't sing a melody until you take a breath, and then the melody comes out. We all have a melody, and that melody can be used every second we're alive. We can sing a melody of compassion, empathy, purpose, or we could waste the day and complain and be in a negative attitude and a negative mindset. And that melody, guess what? A lot of people just don't want to hear that melody. Most people are receptive to a melody that packs positivity in it or packs an attitude of openness. If you don't have a melody that's even, beautiful to say, at least maybe listen and see how you can pivot.
Yeah.
And harmony is right now, it's a privilege to be with you, Nadine. It's a privilege to be with you, Z. There's 3 of us, right? Yeah. 2 or more people is harmony. So just the trifecta right now is harmony of the 3 of us, right? And as the clock keeps ticking and as time goes on, we have to honor time, because that's a reality. By the way, of the 3 things, melody, harmony, and rhythm, the most unnegotiable thing is rhythm. Because no matter what you do, no matter what we think of, live, the clock ticks. Time marches on, and it's indiscriminate. It doesn't care if you're the richest person in the world or the poorest person in the world. It doesn't matter. Rhythm is a non-negotiable item.
Wow, beautifully said. You're so right. We have to just remember to keep doing that, because time is going to continue going on whether we want it to or not. So we might as well get in tune. Might as well get in tune with what we're doing. Now, I just want to know, because obviously you have your hands in so many different things and you really are helping people shape their own lives. What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind? Not just with your music, but with everything you're doing with your program as well.
Thank you, Nadine. I think it's a lot of what I said earlier. I think if we can make the world a bit more empathetic, a bit more compassionate, a bit more mindful, so that people approach life in this how do we co-elevate each other? That's a good thing. And to do it with, let me say this too, because I don't want to sound Pollyanna, and I don't want to sound like, we're living a life through rose-colored glasses. The world has an aspect to it that is dangerous. No question. The world has aspects to it that are, risky, right? You cannot just approach life with surrender. You have a framework in which you live in. You know boundaries, and you know how to respect people, and you respect yourself. So when I say sing your melody, do it with purpose and do it with intention. When I say have harmony, reach out to people, but also reach out to people that you feel you can help and that they can and that you can share the co-elevation with, right? So melody, harmony, rhythm are great, but they have to be done with good intention and with purpose. It's not just Pollyanna.
Beautiful message. Beautiful.
I love that. Wow. Honestly, you have been inspiring us just nonstop. I like to ask this question a lot of times because I just wonder, as you pour into so many people, I mean, who charges you up? Who pours into you, Freddie?
Okay. Well, I have a lot of, I'm blessed. First of all, I'm blessed with a wonderful family. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a beautiful daughter named Jasmine. I have a wonderful son named Maxim. I have incredible parents, Wally and Ruby. I have another family, which is my band that's been playing with me for over 30 years. I have a beautiful lady in my life named Zartha that we're building some beautiful things together. So I also have a deep belief in God and practice, a spiritual practice that keeps me in an attitude of service, right? It ain't about me. It never was. It is about us and how we can co-elevate each other. If we can build harmony in our community, locally and globally, if we can state our melodies so that we're living on purpose, and if we can be in rhythm with each other and achieve the score. The score, by the way, we didn't talk about the score, but the score is the manifestations of melody, harmony, and rhythm, navigating a world filled with dissonance that we can overcome if we listen. And when we listen, magic can happen.
There you go. Amen to that. I love that. It's beautiful. And we just wanted to thank you so much for coming here, sharing your love, your magic, your inspiration. I think we're going to be moving with a little bit more beat in our step today, right? Some more notes. We're going to be finding our own rhythm today, and that's all thanks to you. And guys, if you're wondering how you can connect with Freddie Ravel, we have all of his information linked right below here, the website, the Instagram, all the work. So Freddie, we're going to be watching you. Good luck with everything you're doing. You're so talented, and thank you once again for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Freddie.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Guys.
All right, take care.
Take care.
All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. Woo, I need to take that all in, soak that in for a second, and then we have more of the show when we return, so don't go anywhere.